Okay, greetings, Unlimited Power fans. Welcome to Head to Head for the first time on the channel. Mark in the left corner playing his Luke Skywalker Echo Base deck. And in the right corner, we have Tony, who's playing a very unorthodox double red Cassian Andor with Kestrel City. Take it away, guys.
All right, so this is the first in a series of a new series of games we're going to be doing for the channel, which we're going to be calling Learning Games. The idea is that we'll be playing them with open hands and discussing every decision that we make to help you, the viewer, understand what we're doing as we go along. And disagree with us, argue with us, agree with us, see what the reasoning is behind what plays we're making, what we're resourcing, all this kind of jazz. As the loser of the last game, you get to automatically choose whether or not you want to start with initiative.
So, what have I drawn? I've drawn 3 R2D2s.
Beautiful.
You'll
know what your top card is anyway.
Do I want to mulligan that?
Right.
Now, I've got turn 1 play.
Yeah,
it's not very exciting turn 1 play. Now, it does combo quite nicely with red 3 because I can put 2 Gar2s out in the first turn. And then the second turn I can play red 3.
You can only put 1. They're unique.
Oh, no, they're unique, aren't they? So, yeah, it's a crap hand.
Well, not necessarily. You'd be a resource down on efficiency for turn 1, but then you've got a turn 2 play in red 3, and you've got turn 3 play in K2 or aggression.
Yeah.
So
putting 2 R2s down as resources is not the silliest thing to do. I do definitely have a turn 1 play, and I'm a little bit heavy on events in this deck for a aggression deck, and that's partly because it being red, I'm limited on the units that I can bring.
Yeah.
So I'm going to.
I'm not going
to keep that, and I'm going to resource those 2. I know we play an open deck, but I'm going to move it off the thing just a little bit.
Yeah,
we're all right for this turn, but soon we're going to run out of space.
Okay. So this is what my starting 6 cards are. Against an aggro deck, I would normally resource resupply as a matter of course. Because you want to be playing stuff every turn. You can't afford to waste the turn doing nothing but ramping.
Drawing 2 fleet lieutenants on turn 1 is a really nice pull, but you haven't got any turn 1 pull.
I don't have a turn 1 play, which is a problem. Entrenched is very tasty, but you've got some.
I've got a lot of
you've got
upgrade removal
going on. So entrenched.
I've got 3 power failures and 3 aggressions in this deck.
Devotion is a great card for the healing and the stat buff, but again, with the upgrade removal, it's not that tasty. So if we're looking at 2 fleet lieutenants and a Luke Skywalker, this is not a great hand. So
Luke's not going to come out for too long.
No.
And if the deck's working properly, you should be dead before Luke comes out.
Exactly. With an aggro deck, you need a solid set of early game plays
in
that hand.
Generally, I'm relying on Cassian coming out turn 6 and me heroic sacrificing him with the sabotage into you for the last 6 damage to win.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm leaning on.
Makes sense.
So you're mulliganing that, yeah?
Yeah. That's going the way of John Wick's dog.
So this is a bit of a weird deck. Double anything is always a bit weird. But I quite like it. I've been playing quite a bit of it online, and it's got a reasonably high win rate at the moment.
Oh, now this is looking so much better straight away.
Because,
we like this.
Oh, yes, you've got a nice Sentinel there for turn 2.
So you can either play R2 and shield him, or the Battlefield Marine, and then Echo Base Defender on the next turn. Or Battlefield Marine and shield him on the next turn. Yoda for the healing is amazing. Kanan as an early play is amazing for his stats and his healing. So straight away, I know I'm going to resource home 1. Despite the fact it's an amazingly good card, I need the early play.
You're not going to get it out. Hopefully, if I'm playing right, you're not going to get it out ever.
Yeah.
And if I'm playing wrong and I just don't get the cards or whatever, then you won't need it, hopefully.
Indeed.
So the question then is, what do you play turn 1? So I'm going first.
Yeah, I think the answer is I probably play R2 and shield him. So the combo you can do that is amazing against this deck is Sabine Wren.
Yeah.
And it's not a combo so much as just a straight card. And Sabine Wren is kind of like a counter to the Alliance Dispatcher.
Yes, because it will kill off the shield and then it will kill off the card.
Yeah, her on attack ability kills the shield, and then she's a 2/3, which kills the dispatcher straight away. And the dispatcher does 1 damage to her, and she's still left standing.
She doesn't
care.
And that's why there's 3 of them in my deck.
I need to be really careful about who's got the initiative and what their odds are of playing Sabine.
So I've got 3 Sabines in this deck.
With R2, it's not a problem because he's got 4 health, so he's not vulnerable to it. So I don't care as much.
And you just don't really care. I can attack it, but I'm probably not going to. I'm going to attack base if you've got an R2 out. It's not worth the protecting myself for 1 damage. I'd be better off doing 3 damage to base.
Which means I'm playing R2 turn 1 and shielding him for the strength and deck sight that he gives me going forwards. The healing from Yoda is going to be amazing against aggro. I can play him on when I've got 4 resources and shield him, or not. Make him a target that you've kind of got to go through.
The question with Yoda is, have I got Wolf, basically? Yeah. So that's the answer in my deck to your healing is Wolf. Him, and if you try and use Devotion or something like that, I've got 6 different ways of removing upgrades.
And because I know you've got upgrade removal in general, I think I'm going to resource this guy rather than try and play him with a shield in favour of the high drops, which will be able to trade more effectively into whatever you play each turn.
Yeah. Okay, so turn 1 then, I'm going to be playing an R2-D2.
So am I.
And then I'm going to be taking the initiative.
And then I'm going to be shielding him with Luke. And then passing. Oh, excuse me.
Okay. Take 2 more cards.
Sorry.
Okay. So I've just drawn. Come on, why am I drawing so badly whenever I play? Whenever we play on camera, I draw really ridiculously. First 3 R2s and then 2 General Dondonas. Okay, so I don't need 2 General Dondonas, so I'm going to resource 1 of them.
All right. I've just drawn an Escort Skiff and a Spark Rebellion. An Escort Skiff isn't massively useful because I don't have any green units on board, but I might do if I play the Sentinel next turn, so keeping the Escort Skiff is great. However, Spark of Rebellion against you is not a tasty card. This is an out-of-aspect card in this deck, which is mainly there to counter Super Laser Blasts, Overwhelming Barrages, and such things. I play it for 4 resources. It's not a card that's useful against this deck, so I'm just going to resource it.
Okay. So it is my turn. So I'm going to start off. Now I need to do damage to base. I can see you've not got anything on board that's going to kill off R2-D2. So I'm fairly confident that he's going to be remaining there long enough for me to be worth playing red 3 first.
To give R2 2 extra
damage. To give R2 to attack.
Yeah, that makes absolute perfect sense in doing so. So I could play either Yoda or the Echo-based Defender at this stage, or I could attack with R2. However, I know that R2's got 4 health, so if I play the Sentinel now at this point, my 4-attack Sentinel would kill R2 if he attacks into it, which I don't think. Well, if he's willing to do, then great. If he's willing to do it and do 2 damage to the Echo-based Defender, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Yeah. So I'll just preempt 2 damage onto my base by paying 3 and playing the Echo-based Defender straight away.
Okay. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, well, I've got a choice. If I leave that Echo-based Defender, now I know you can't shield it.
That's correct, because I'm all tapped out.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the slightly weird decision of I'm actually going to attack him for 2 and kill off my R2-D2.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm going to do that is that next turn when I've got 4 on the board, I'm going to play my General Dondonna.
Yep.
And then I'm going, unless I get something better, to do an extra point of damage with red 3, because that'll mean I'll be able to do 4 damage to base with that anyway. But it also means that if I start doing things like playing a K2,
then the Echo-based Defender's got 1 hit point left, and K2 can just waltz straight over with him. His Overwhelm.
Exactly, and use his Overwhelm on something like that. So I'd rather have him weakened, because I know you can't play shield, and next turn Luke can't put shield on him because he wasn't deployed then anyway. So I know now we've got a weak point on there that I can attack to try and do some extra damage to base through Overwhelm. And he'll die as well, which will do another 3 damage. So theoretically, I could do 6 damage with him in 1 attack.
Tasty play with K2, which is perfectly fair, and I probably should have thought of that, but honestly, I don't think I'd have done anything different if I had thought about that based on what I've got.
I think it was the best play that you had, probably. I don't think there's any point in playing an escort skiff.
The only other thing I could have played would have been Yoda, and then
you haven't taken any damage to base, and then you're just sort of risking your healing.
Yeah.
Because I'll just attack Yoda.
Indeed. Right, so you've gone into a base defender. The only action I've got left that I do want to do is attack for 1 to base with R2. And I will look at the top card of my deck. It is a 2-cost devotion upgrade, which, given that we've already decided upgrades against this deck are probably not the most optimal way of approaching things, I'm going to send that to the bottom.
Okay.
In the hope of drawing more better units.
Okay. I am going to, with that, take the initiative.
I'm going to pass. What are you thinking, John?
Okay, I've got a medal ceremony, which I quite like, and a green squadron A-wing. Now, green squadron A-wing is my favourite thing to pull for my starting hand.
Yep.
It's the best 2-drop I've got in this deck. It's between green squadron and Sabine. Sabine's great because of that shield removal, but green squadron A-wing and following it up with a fleet lieutenant does 5 damage on turn 2. And I think that's about the most damage I could do on turn 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's very strong.
So I really like getting it. Now I'm looking at what I've got in my hand. I've got a lot of 4-drops here, but I don't really have much in this deck more than a 4-drop. I've got no 5-drops at all.
What's you got in the game so far, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as hell with you guys speaking about it, but I guess there's less, like there's less downtime in it, so it's harder for me to jump in, I guess. But that's fine. That's fine.
I think you disagreed with any calls or things that have been made so far? Would you
no,
have done it differently?
It's very interesting, actually. Yeah, no.
Okay. So what am I going to resource? So I really like having that K2 in my hand. K2 at the moment is what I'm leaning on playing. Yeah. Green Squadron A-Wing would be nice to get some more damage on the table. General Dondonna is quite a powerful card, but he's actually quite easy to remove quite quickly now. You can just attack him with your Echo base. He'll die, you'll die, but you've only got 1 hit point left, and you're actually removing a vulnerability at that point to K2. So aggression I want to keep in my hand, because if you do start playing upgrades, being able to remove something like a shield or a shielded card with the devotion upgrade is a real pain in the ass, because I can't get rid of it. But with aggression, I could take off both of those and do 4 damage to it to get rid of that card potentially.
So you either want to keep maximum flexibility in the units that you've got available and maybe dump the medal ceremony. I suppose it depends on how many upgrades you think you're going to be able to get on units with the medal ceremony. It'll only be 1 unit this turn if you use it, unless you want to save it for a later turn.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to resource General Dondonna, because I just don't think that he's going to be around long enough to get much value out of.
Yeah, I think he's more used for late game play when you've got a lot more
used for late game. Or if it looks like I'm going to be able to get a lot of stuff on the board, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get a lot of stuff on the board to get the most benefit out of him. Now, the reason I haven't resourced Medal Ceremony is because I know I'm only going to be able to use it on 1 card this turn, but little upgrades on like that red 3 are going to make it quite annoying quite quickly to get rid of.
And if you can save it to the turn when you deploy Cassian and attack with him, then you can put it on 2 or more units.
So it's just it's not going to cost me anything to hang on to it at the moment. I've already decided what I'm going to do. I've got the initiative, and I'm going to start off. But I'm almost certainly, unless you've got some crazy playing thing, I'm either going to play K2 or aggression if you've got something I need to get rid of.
It's fair. So I've drawn a pair of very easy cards to add to my hand and decide what to do with. I've drawn a Resupply and a Bright Hope. We've already discussed that Resupply is useless against an aggro deck because you want to be playing useful stuff every turn. So straight away, I'm going to resource the Resupply, add the Bright Hope to my hand, win-win.
So one thing I do like about, I would say, is if you didn't get rid of that resupply, this turn coming up, you wouldn't be able to do it. But the turn after it, it'd get your Luke out on turn 5.
Yes.
Which could be really useful just to start doing some damage back. But also, Luke on his own is going to be able to kill anything in my deck.
Luke's a really powerful character.
Luke's a really powerful character that comes out on turn 6, and frankly, he's too good to come out on turn 6. He should be a 7 like Vader.
Wouldn't go that far, but nah, I get your point.
Yeah. So I don't know that you don't ever want to play resupply against, because like I say, on turn 5, actually that's quite a handy thing to do.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
We're getting pretty close to that.
We are, but for now we're on 4 resources, and you've got the initiative.
Okay, so I'm going to start off then, and I know that you've got some annoying things in that deck. I can't remember what Bright Hope is. 6, isn't it?
Bright Hope is a 2/6 Sentinel.
Yeah, but what turn?
It's 4 resources.
It's a 4 resource, so theoretically, Bright Hope could be coming out.
I can play in this turn, absolutely.
Yeah, so therefore I know I need to get Red 3's damage out before Bright Hope can come out.
That seems
so
reasonable.
I'm going to, before I do anything else, I'm going to attack with Red 3.
Which is 3 to base straight away because it's got raid 1.
3 to base because he's powered up by his own raid.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool.
So now you know I've spent my space unit.
Yep.
You might want to do something other than deploying Bright Hope, or do you think, fuck it, I haven't got anything better to play?
So at this point, I've got a pair of resources on the ground totaling 5 points of damage.
Yep.
They've got nothing to do except attacking to base, which is cool. But I think I might want to see what you bring down in ground or in space before playing any resources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play for time a little bit here and attack for 1 to base with R2D2. Would do his useful ability, get a bit of damage on base, and see what Tony does so I can react to it with my next play. I've drawn a Redemption, which is an amazing card. 8 resources, it is bananas good against aggro. So I'm going to leave that on the top of my deck.
Okay. Even though 8 resource is quite a long way off.
Yep, I know that there is only one of these in my deck, but there's a 6/9 Space Sentinel that could potentially heal 8 points of life off all the units or my base. It's great.
If you've only got one, then that makes sense to hang on to that.
Yeah.
Because if you put it at the bottom, you know you're never getting it.
Exactly. If the game gets that far and it's close, then suddenly playing 8 resources and healing 8 points of damage
that's
off
the
my
end
base.
of it. That's the end. That's the game-winning move.
Yeah.
Okay, so I still don't know if you've got a Bright Hope. So I'm sitting there thinking, well, he might do. Would he have played it then last time? No, he's going to try and draw me out to do things. So I'm not going to bother with the Green Squadron. I love this card, but I'm probably going to resource that next turn unless I get something good, depending on what you play. So I've got a choice here. I can try and I can kill off a card with aggression, but it's probably not worth it. Getting rid of an R2 that's already done its damage isn't worth doing. Getting rid of the Echo-based Defender, save myself 4 damage, maybe.
What are the 4 things that aggression does?
Sorry?
What are the 4 things that aggression
can do? Aggression's got choose 2, draw a card, defeat up to 2 upgrades, ready a unit with 3 or less power. So that's quite useful. I could theoretically play it, kill off your Echo base.
Yep.
And then attack with Red 3 again.
For another 3 damage. Yeah.
But I still don't know if you've got a Bright Hope. So if I did that, readied up Red 3, you played that, then I've just totally wasted it.
Exactly. That is the thing.
Sake of doing coup
it also doesn't build board presence. It doesn't leave you with more units on the board. Which is
until it's something I really need to get rid of, like you play a Devotion or something like that, which I've got to get rid of, I'm going to hang on to that. Which means that my choices are a bit limited into playing a K2 SO.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because I want him on the board.
Which is fine. So we're doing those, which is not a problem. Which leaves me with a pair of options for dealing with K2 immediately before he starts doing horrible things to me.
Yep.
I can do the Echo-based Defender into him. Or I can pay 4 and put the Escort Skiff into him.
Yeah.
Leaving the Echo-based Defender in place as a Sentinel to just be annoying for something later. So the question is, what would I rather have left on the board? A 3-resource Echo-based Defender, or probably a 4-resource, either Bright Hope or Kanan?
Now, if it was me, I'd be sitting there thinking, I think I'd probably get Bright Hope out, because you don't know what I've got. And apart from that, I am fairly space heavy. And Bright Hope is an absolute bastard for me to deal with. 6 damage in space with a deck like this just isn't going to happen in one turn.
Yep.
So it locks down the space arena completely.
The flip side to that is if I play Bright Hope now, then that's great, and I can do so. It'll be a 2/6 on the board.
Yep.
But if I can wait a turn to when I've got a spare resource, if I play the Bright Hope,
then you can shield it as well.
Attack him, and then I shield it,
Yep.
then it becomes a lot more daunting a prospect. And it's like, oh god, I've got to go through the shield, and then I've got to hit him again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the ideal way I want to play Bright Hope.
Yeah, bring it on turn 5.
Yeah, if I wait for something to be a legitimate threat in space that I can play Bright Hope as a reaction to as a Space Sentinel, then I think I'm kind of preferring waiting for that.
I suppose in some ways it's you play it now, you don't take 3 damage from red 3.
Yeah.
You play and red 3 is a bit neutered for a while, but if you use the escort skiff, you kill off K2, you will take 3 damage now, but you also prevent him from attacking next turn for 4 damage.
It'll be more than that because he'll benefit from red 3's raid buff as well.
You get 5 damage, yep.
Yeah. I think I would like to be left with a big unit on board rather than a sentinel. So I'm going to save my ambushing escort skiff. I'm going to kill K2 with the echo-based defender.
Okay, so you're going to take the 2 damage from the overwhelm?
No, I'm not, because overwhelm only happens when you're attacking me.
Oh, does it? In which case, then you're just going to take the 3 damage for...
or discard a card, whichever you choose to make me do.
Right, take the 3 damage, because I need to get the damage up before we get to the later turns.
All right, no worries. So I know that you've spent all your stuff.
You know that I've
you're
spent all my
basically
stuff.
tapped out.
You don't know what I've got in my hand. I might have some medal ceremonies to play, but it'd be unlikely for me to want to play a medal ceremony on a red 3 generally.
Indeed.
So I'm going to take the initiative.
Right. So my choice now is I can play either Kanan Bright Hope, Escort Skiff, or Yoda with a shield. Yoda with a shield is pretty tasty with some healing at this point. But Kanan gives me raw trading power, and he does healing as well in a slightly weird fashion. So I'm going to pay all 4 of my resources and play Kanan Jarrus down. Ready to be a nuisance.
Okay. Can you remember what Kanan does?
So Kanan is a 4/5 vigilance hero. On attack, you may discard 1 card from the defending player's deck for each friendly Spectre unit. There's only ever going to be 1 because he's the only Spectre unit in this deck. Heal 1 damage from your base for each different aspect among the discarded cards.
Okay. So it's just going to heal 1 damage each time he attacks them, effectively.
1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
So it's like the one deck that's Kanan's weak against. Just you,
there you go. And that's me all tapped out, so I'll pass now.
Okay.
Kanan's like my ideal 2-drop if you get like, or turn 2, you know, you get the dispatcher out in turn 1, and then you can bring Kanan in for 1 cheaper
Kanan
in turn 2. He's so good.
A lot of players can't handle. He's great.
Okay, so I've just drawn a heroic sacrifice and a for a cause.
Okay, for a cause is good. Heroic sacrifice is good.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there thinking, okay.
This limits the amount of units you can play, though. Which is
I'm not sure what you've got in your hand, and I've started to build up a bit of a handful of events here. I'm still worried about Bright Hope. I'm not worried about ground at the moment, but I haven't got any ground units, and I don't even have any in my hand. So I've got a real problem there if you bring out something like that Bright Hope. So I've really got to have an answer for that. I've also got to be able to do some damage. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh, hell, what do I do? I don't like not having any units.
Keep for a cause because it's the raw card.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I know I'm going to attack with red 3 first before I do anything else, because I need to get that damage out just in case you try and block it again.
Yep.
Now I've got a choice here. Do I heroic sacrifice it? And just to get 5 more damage onto base, that takes you up to 11 damage. It is important for me to get damage out, but it leaves me with basically no cards at this point. And I'm not really going to gain very much for that. Medal ceremony, again, it's quite nice to be able to power things up, but I haven't got anything to power up at the moment.
Yeah, I'm keeping on top of board presence fairly effectively.
Yeah.
Which means that you almost certainly want to keep and play the A-Wing just to have some more units on the board.
Just to have some more units on the board. So really, it's what do I resource? Because I do need to resource, because I do need to be able to get up to sort of 6 resources to be able to do some stuff. When I can start playing 2-3 drops in a turn, then I'm going to be in good position.
I think at
I'm
this
not
point,
relying on big cards. I'm relying on multiple cards.
I think you're definitely keeping aggression. You're definitely keeping A-wing.
Yeah.
You're resourcing one of those 3. I'm
Yeah.
not sure which.
No.
Probably heroic sacrifice. Because at this point,
sacrifice is an ender. Now, I'm also thinking, what am I going to play at the moment? Now, I don't have much that I can play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and stall as much as I can, because Cassian's abilities, when I do 3 damage to base, I have got a resource that I can spend, because I've got nothing that I really want to play for 5.
Yeah.
So I need to resource something. I'm going to resource the medal ceremony.
Seems fair. Excuse.
Because I just don't have enough things to use it on.
Excuse me.
And that's going to mean that I've got 5 on the board, so I can risk or use Cassian to try and get me some more options.
Yeah, Medal Ceremony is probably the least productive card at the moment for you. Then again, maybe boosting.
I like having Heroic Sacrifice because it means that I can do that extra couple of points of damage for that stretch.
Yeah, which is cool, and also for killing bigger units that are in your way.
I've got no answer to big units.
Yeah. Unless you,
for example, I can use aggression for 4. I'm not going to be able to do this turn if I use Cassian, but that's a risk I'm going to have to take. But I could use aggression for 4, get rid of a shield on a Bright Hope, do 4 damage to it, and then finish it off
with red 3.
With red 3, but I'm going to attack with red 3 already. So next turn, though, I can Heroic Sacrifice something if you heal it a bit. Basically, I can get rid of it. Because I can't afford for Sentinels to be hanging around too long. So what have you drawn?
So I've drawn the Redemption that we saw earlier, and an Admiral Akbar, who is very useful, but not in this situation.
No, he's most useful when you pull him out of a U-wing.
Yeah, exactly right. Having a 1/4 on board with Restore 1 is all well and good. His ability to shoot things will do absolutely nothing in the current board state situation.
Yeah.
And all the other cards I've drawn will have a use in the game, potentially far greater than Akbar. So I'm sorry, Akbar, but it's a bit of a no-brainer here. You're going away.
There we go. Okay, so it's my turn. I've got the initiative.
Yep.
And I'm going to start by attacking with red 3 for 3 damage.
Yep.
And then I'm going to use Cassian's ability.
Hold on. Is that an action? Or can you just do it anytime?
No, it will be an action, but I'm going to be using Cassian's ability.
Okay, that's cool. So that's 3 to base with the red thingy.
With red 3.
Yeah, so that puts me on 9.
I keep humming and ahhing about taking red 3 out of my deck, to be honest.
Yeah?
Because it doesn't do anything when it first arrives. I often can't risk playing it and then attacking.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of 3 drops in my deck. So maybe taking it out for possibly even something like Spec Force Soldier.
It's very worthwhile if the opponent doesn't get rid of your turn 1 drop, because it'll buff that, and then your turn drop will just hit that a little bit harder. So red 3 buffing an A-wing can put out a lot of damage.
A-wing puts A-wing up to damage 4.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as good as getting a Fleet Lieutenant, but
the Fleet Lieutenant's a one-time buff rather than the permanent
buff.
The
permanent one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I will or not. It's just it's one of those cards that's on the edge of maybe getting swapped out for something.
No, that's fair enough.
Because I do struggle for units in this deck.
Yeah, that's fair. So you've done an attack straight away. At this point, I don't know what you've got. In theory, I don't know what you've got in your hand. I know you've got 5 ready resources.
Yep.
You've got nothing on board for me to attack directly at this time. So I'm going to play for time and attack for 1 to base with R2-D2, just like I did last time. Top card of my deck, I see an Alliance Dispatcher. It is no use to me whatsoever this way through the game, because I would need to deploy it, have it survive, and then use it on future things. And I'm starting to build up resources where the point where I've got in enough, so I don't really need it. You can go to the bottom, and hopefully I'll draw something more useful.
Okay.
Next turn.
You don't know that I'm not playing for time, and actually I just haven't got any good plays.
Yep.
So I'm going to play for Cassian, hoping
Yep.
like hell I get something useful.
Yep, which is fair.
And
Does
I
it cost
draw
you a resource as well?
Yeah, so I tap a resource.
Another
and I
heroic
draw something
sacrifice.
bloody useless,
Oof.
which is another heroic sacrifice.
Yeah, not great
And
in
I
your
try
current
not to let on
situation.
that I've still not drawn any bloody units.
Or you're again playing for time. You've still got 4 resources. You could play
Still
something
got 4 resources.
relatively big-ish.
I've got some good 4-drops in my deck.
So at this point, do I want to play something, or do I want to just attack with Kanan, give up my ability to attack what you might play in the ground arena? But I know you've got something in space at this point. Having said that, I'm pretty overpowering you in the ground arena right now, so doubling down on ground isn't the worst thing in the world. I think I will wait and see what to deploy next out of my hand and play for a little bit more time. Do 4 damage to base with Kanan.
Okay, so that will take me up to 7 damage. So
please discard the top card of your deck,
which is upsettingly a medal ceremony. Actually, I don't care.
So that's got 1 icon on it, which is a hero icon, right?
Yep.
So I heal 1 damage.
You heal 1 damage, don't you? So
yes.
I'm actually being out aggroed by near enough out aggroed by you at the moment.
A mid-range deck, yeah. Because I've kept board control to such a point where, yeah, exactly.
I just haven't had any. I've just really struggled for ground units this game.
So now it's up to you.
So now it's back to me, and I think, right, I've got 4 in my hand. What am I going to do with it? I've still not got any really good plays at the moment. I could put a green squadron down.
You could.
For 2, but that would leave me with 2 fairly useless cards. I could aggression something, but there's nothing on there that I particularly want to aggression.
For a cause, at least gives you a glimpse of what's to come.
Gives me a glimpse and might help me choose some units that I can do some damage with, and it's still getting damage on you, which I need.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play for 3.
It's a bit of a desperate play, but it's not the worst play in the world either.
But I really am hurting for units here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play for a cause and hope that I get something good. I'm just moving that out of the way a bit. So I've got 4 cards. I've got an X-Wing, another heroic sacrifice, fleet lieutenant. That's something I do want.
Yeah.
And a guerrilla attack pod. Now, next turn I'm going to get 6, which means I'm going to be able to get my guerrilla attack pod out.
All right. So you got a bit of power coming your way.
So I've got a bit of ground unit. So I'm sitting there going, brilliant. I needed that. But I probably
it's 4 heroic units, isn't it? So that's 4 damage to me.
It's it's 4 heroic damage.
Cards,
4 damage to you.
Yeah.
But I don't really need another space unit. I've got one of them.
You definitely don't need another heroic
sacrifice. So that one's going to go on the bottom of my deck. I don't really need yet another heroic sacrifice, because that means I've got 3 of them.
Yeah.
So that one's going to go on the bottom of my deck. And then it doesn't really matter what order I put those 2 cards in, because I'm going to draw both next turn anyway.
I hope we're not boring John too badly.
He hasn't said we've bored him so much he's left.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to put those back in there. I can't remember what order it is, but it doesn't matter anyway.
Okay, so you've kept the guerrilla attack pod.
I've kept the guerrilla attack pod and the fleet lieutenant.
Yeah, which figures. So I know you're going to be fleet lieutenanting. Well, you might not be fleet lieutenanting next turn.
I might not be fleet lieutenanting because it's going to depend on what
3
you
damage
play
with red
next.
3, which will knock me over the 15.
Yeah, that's
so
the ideal solution, but it will mean that I won't be able to guerrilla attack pod next turn.
Why not?
Because I've only got 6 resources next turn, and you're on 12, aren't you? So I could attack without the fleet lieutenant, but that's what it's going to be, isn't it? So if you've got an empty, clear space arena, I'm going to attack you with red 3,
which will put me over the 15, which will bring the attack pod down ready. And I know guerrilla attack pod is a staple of this kind of aggro deck.
Yep.
So at this point, I think now is a decision point for me to pay 4 and play the Bright Hope to block that damage from the space arena next turn.
Okay. And that's going to come back over to me. And I've got 1 card left. I've really not got any plays for this. So I'm going to take the initiative.
Yeah.
So
I've got 1 resource left and a Luke, so I'm going to spend that resource and that Luke to put a shield on the Bright Hope.
Okay, and I'm sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do about that?
Because this is the way.
Because this is the way.
Right, next turn.
So I draw my 2 cards. I know what I've got.
Yep.
And I think, right, what I'm going to do, I'm obviously going to resource a heroic sacrifice because I've got 2 of them, and I really don't need 2 of them
at the moment. Yeah. Realistically, your plays are probably going to be aggression and then your A-wing, I think.
Yeah. So I really don't have a lot of great choices here on what I can do.
Yeah.
Because I can't do enough damage, even with aggression, because Bright Hope's got 6 health, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, aggression only does 4 damage.
So the red would have to go into it to finish it off as
The
well.
red would have to go into it to finish it off, which defeats the purpose.
Yep.
By the same token, I really don't want Kanan hitting me again.
Yep, that's fair.
Because you're racking up more damage than I am at this point, which is a real problem.
Yep.
But again, aggression won't get rid of him because he's got 5 health.
Indeed.
So I don't really have an answer to anything. So I've not got any great plays to kick things off. There's no point in me putting red 3 into a shield. It's not going to gain me anything except a near dead red 3.
Fleet Lieutenant into Bright Hope is a pointless play.
Fleet Lieutenant into Bright Hope is a pointless play. So all of my plays.
Fleet Lieutenant into Cassian is not a pointless play.
Fleet Lieutenant into Cassian is quite a good play. So I need to wake him back up. So what am I thinking at the moment? I've got 2 choices, really. I could play the Guerrilla Attack Pod, which would just get me something in the ground arena, but he won't ready. So
if you do Cassian, he could knock me over 15, which then allows you to play the Guerrilla Attack Pod, unless I've got a Sentinel in play, and Obi-Wan does play on 6. Plus, I might have a cheaper 3-point Sentinel.
Yeah,
but
you could well have another Echo Base, which I don't know. So I tend to try and hang on to my Cassians just in case you start playing those.
But even so, Cassian walks straight past it with Saboteur anyway. So
he does, which is
guaranteed damage out of Cassian unless I can kill him in one go with what I've got.
I don't have any great plays. I can't get around Bright Hope with red 3 at the moment. So red 3 is effectively completely neutered. So he's just going to sit there, a bit like the X-Wing did in the last game.
Yeah.
So
he will buff Cassian as well for an extra point of damage.
He does buff Cassian as well for an extra point of damage, which is quite nice. So at the moment, I'm thinking, right, my best play is probably to deploy Cassian.
Well, not yet. We're not. Have you resourced?
Yeah, I've got 6 resources out now.
Okay, I haven't done resourcing yet
because I didn't need to.
So the 2 cards I drew are pretty bonkers, actually.
Oh, 2 7-drops.
And they're amazing. They're both amazing.
Yeah.
So if I take those in conjunction with what I've got in my hand, I think that
See, I think that the weakest card you've got at the moment
is going to be Yoda.
It's going to be Yoda. I don't think you need that healing. You're not taking enough damage to need it.
I might be about to play Luke and Redemption, which will be a ton of healing anyway.
Yeah.
Kanan's doing a little bit. Having the ability to ambush in the escort skiff is still really tasty.
It's handy.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to resource Yoda at this point and have my next few turns sewn up in things I'm going to be playing.
Yep.
Obviously, it's not ideal for what I play on my resource 6 turn because all I can play is the escort skiff.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with that given the board presence I've got.
Because you've got much more board presence than I have at the moment anyway.
Yeah.
And you know that Luke's coming out this turn anyway.
Indeed. And I couldn't play both Yoda and the escort skiff anyway. So,
it doesn't make really any difference to you.
Not really.
So I've got a choice here. Do I? I've still got the chance to play Guerrilla Attack Pod. If I just attack with Cassian, I can get the 4 damage out on your base, and I can get the Guerrilla Attack Pod for a potential additional 4 damage.
Get it out ready, yeah.
Or I can Fleet Lieutenant and definitely do 6 damage. Now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, well, he doesn't really have a particular answer to Cassian at the moment. Because Luke can only do 4 damage. The other guy, the lightsaber boy, can only do 4 damage.
Yep.
Yes, he could get buffed up to do an extra couple of points of damage. It's a potential. But if I've kept Cassian around till the next turn,
yep,
and I've got the Gorilla Attack Pod out this turn, then I'm going to be in a really strong position because I can Fleet Lieutenant no matter what you play. You haven't got any Sentinels down at the moment.
I'm going to be able to kill Cassian if I want to.
Yeah.
There's nothing really stopping me if I want to dedicate resources into it.
There is, but that's dedicating resources into it.
Yeah. Plus, when Luke attacks, he can attack into Cassian. He won't die in return. He'll put a shield in Kanan. Kanan attacks and takes no damage when he kills Cassian. So that's a potential play.
He does, and that's then all Cassian can do is stop me taking any more base damage return.
Yeah. But I maintain board control and go into my pretty tasty endgame scenario.
You do. But then the other way I look at this is I've only done 12 damage to you. I could do 6 damage to you then. That'll take you up to 18 damage.
Yeah,
and
every
then
little
I'll
bit
probably still lose Cassian. It's 16 damage versus 18 damage.
Yeah. And you'll draw a card on the attack with Cassian as well at the same time.
You can.
Which is also good.
But I don't think there's anything in my deck that I particularly want to draw at the moment. There's nothing in there that's going to really save my day.
Yeah.
So I think probably I'm going to attack with Cassian.
So the first action of your turn then is deploying Cassian.
Yeah. So my first turn, I deployed Cassian.
All right. So for my turn then, excuse me. I could play. Sorry, I've had this really bad cough the last week and a half. I could ambush the escort skiff into Cassian. Cassian's a 4/6?
4/6. So he won't die, but your escort skiff will.
Yeah.
But it would mean that when you brought Luke out, potentially
we'd kill him fairly easily.
Luke or Janus could finish off Cassian.
Yeah, I think I'd rather. So at this time, Cassian can't. Oh, he can kill Kanan because he's got +1 attack from the red 3, so I know that can happen. Am I bothered about potentially losing Cassian before he can act? You can't kill R2 in one go. You can do damage to space, or you can kill R2 in one go. Can you?
Yeah, because he's a saboteur, so he'll ignore the shield.
Oh, you're right. The shield will just go straight away and kill R2. Well, killing R2 is less of an issue than killing Kanan.
I'm probably not going to kill R2 because I'm sitting there thinking, well, 1 damage to my base. I don't care.
Yeah. I think that I would rather make the most use of the resources that I have at this point. So I would attack Kanan into base for 4 damage.
Yep.
And because you could potentially kill Kanan otherwise, and that will get him off the board and mean he won't have done anything this turn productive. Would you also discard the top card of your deck?
Which is a nice card, Fights for Freedom. Quite like that
card. That's a red hero, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a red heroic. It's a really handy card because if you've got it down on the board, this is brilliant for aggro. Any other red cards you play, which is my entire deck more or less, does 1 damage to base.
And because it's a red hero,
it's relying on lots of very low cost cards.
Yeah.
I can do a lot of damage to base very, very quickly if I've got a nice big fat hand and that on the board.
But because it's a red hero, that's 2 aspect icons, so I'll heal 2.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Tony's play.
Is this the same game?
This is still the learning game, where we're discussing stuff.
We're really early on because it takes a long time to talk things through.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so I've got a choice here. I either Fleet Lieutenant Cassian into your base, which we've talked about before. That will get his damage out, and it will get 6 damage on your base, which is really important for me at the moment. Or I just normally attack him, so that with the intention of bringing the Gorilla Attack Pod out next turn.
Yep.
I like my Gorilla Attack Pod because if you attack it, it's got grit.
Yep.
So
I can kill it in one go, or just beef its damage. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Luke's coming out this turn.
It's highly likely.
That's very likely. So if I bring out the Gorilla Attack Pod and Luke attacks it, well, okay, he won't kill it, and he'll take quite a bit of damage in return.
Yeah,
you could finish it off, but then whatever you finish it off with is going to die as well, because he'll have so much attack after taking a Luke attack. He'll have 8 attack.
I think, given that you've got the raid 1 from red 3 on Cassian, that would put me up to 15 damage. Playing that, then the attack pod is probably your strongest play right now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to choose to do. So I'm going to attack with Cassian.
5 to base.
Your base. I'm going to draw a card. and I've got a wing leader, which is nice. We like that.
Yep, wing leader is very useful.
Especially because I'm starting to get a decent number of resources here, so I can play fleet lieutenant and wing leader in a turn potentially. In fact, potentially I could play wing leader, fleet lieutenant, and heroic sacrifice. And I think no, I couldn't. That wouldn't work.
Yeah. Right. So at this point, you've still got 6 resources on board. Your red 3 is probably not doing anything except buffing everybody else. Do I want to see what you're going to do with these 6 resources before playing Luke? Probably, which means I stall for time with R2 and do 1 point of damage to base with R2D2. My top card is a Luke, which I've already got one in my hand, so you can go to the bottom of the deck.
Okay. Now I've got my 6 resources. There's no point in me attacking Bright Hope with red 3. I'll take 2 damage for no benefit. And I leave it open because Bright Hope hasn't attacked either. So that would mean that Bright Hope could then attack it, only take 2 damage in return, and kill off my red 3, which is something I don't want to happen.
Yep.
Because I want the extra point of damage from it. So I've got to play cards. So do I play 2 cards? I could play Wing Leader and buff up red 3. Then I could Fleet Lieutenant and buff up red 3, but there's no point.
Because you still only take a shield off Bright Hope.
At least the first time you attack. I can play.
You would have presence in space.
I will have presence in space. I could play the Wing Leader and the Green Squadron A-Wing. That gets me a lot of presence in space. And I mean, I'm getting closer to being able to get rid of Bright Hope. Or I go and I've got my plan. I don't see any real reason to change it. And I play for 6 resource.
Yeah.
A attack pod, which will immediately ready.
Because I've taken 15.
Because you've taken 15.
Fine. Okay. Right. So, at this point, you're all resourced out. You're going to be You've played everything you're going to be playing this turn.
I've played everything I'm going to be playing this turn. The only thing I could theoretically have is a medal ceremony, and even if I did, you wouldn't care because I'd just buff up Cassian ever so slightly.
Yeah.
Because he's the only thing to attack this turn. So you're pretty confident now that you know what I'm going to do next turn, because I'm unlikely to hit Bright Hope. I'm almost certainly going to do 4 damage to your base with Gorilla Attack Pod or try and kill something, but I can't kill anything with Gorilla Attack Pod, so I'm not going to attack Kanan.
Not sure what order you're going to do stuff in, though. So let's test what you're going to do, and I think I'm going to deploy Luke at this point.
So that's going to effectively stall for a bit of time.
Yep.
You've still got all 6 of your resources.
Yep.
And I've really only got 2 plays left that are reasonably important plays. So
now, if you go into either Kanan or Luke,
yep,
you become an 8-2.
I do,
which is nice, but very easy to die. Very easy to get killed.
Whatever attacks him will kill him.
Yeah.
There's no point in me going into Kanan because he's already
probably die.
So I'd have to go into. I'd go into Luke
or into base.
Sorry?
Or just do damage to the base.
Or just do damage to the base. If I went into Luke, I'd end up with a very weak Gorilla Attack Pod, but we're doing a lot of damage.
Yep.
If I go into base, I'll do damage to base, and I do need to get damage to base so I can start getting towards killing you. So I'm going to go into base for 4.
Yep, and every point of damage you do to base puts me in range of the finishes you've got from your heroic sacrifices and for a cause I believe in and everything else that could do.
So I'm going to do that, knowing that you can't kill off Luke unless you've got some sort of horrific combo in your hand.
Okay, right. So that's 4 to base, which puts me on 19.
Or you've got to hit it twice.
Why is it only 4? Do you not get raid 1 from the red?
Oh no, you're right. 5 damage twice.
Good shout. My bad.
Okay.
What is it? Rebel unit? Is it affect?
It's
rebels?
A heroic unit.
Heroic units.
Yep,
which is a Gorilla Attack Pod because
so 20 damage. So 20 damage is pretty tasty right now. He's taken 12. I know what's coming on turn 7 and 8, and I know they're pretty tasty for me.
You've got some really powerful stuff. You can heal by quite a lot on turn 8 with Redemption.
Yeah.
So you just really need to survive till turn 8, and then I'm completely boned because you'll heal all the damage I've done.
Yeah. So what's going to do me the most damage? I know that Cassian can just saboteur past whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I know that attack pod can only attack once a turn, really. So I think Cassian's the most dangerous one because he can just saboteur past anything and kill shields and things.
He can. He can. So it depends on if you've got sentinels in your hand. Now I don't know if you have sentinels in your hand or not. But if you've got sentinels in your hand, then Cassian's by far the more dangerous. If you haven't got sentinels in your hand, then it doesn't really make a difference. They're both going to be hitting you for the same.
But I think on turn 7 I can deploy Luke and just murder the crap out of the gorilla attack pod. Effectively. Or Cassian, to be honest.
They're exactly the same. They've got the same defensive profile. And offensive profile, apart from Saboteur.
They'll both get the raid bonus. So I need to kill one of them. At minimum.
Yep. Because you've still got all of your resources.
Damage. See, at 20 health taken, this is painful. Let's do Cassian. Why not? I think with his saboteur, he's probably the more dangerous out of the two of them. Unless you've got a method of readying the gorilla attack pod, which I don't think you do, because I think aggression only works on powers
only works for things that are 3 or less power.
Yeah, so let's attack Cassian with Luke.
Okay, so that will do 4 damage to Cassian.
Yeah, and 4 damage to Luke. And on his attack, you may put a shield on a friendly unit, or any unit. Well, it's going to be a friendly one, so I'll put it on Kanan. And then I will pay my 4 resources to ambush in the escort skiff and kill Cassian with it.
Yep.
Killing the escort skiff in return as well. Because I'm assuming you've taken initiative at this point.
Yep.
Because I've just done 2 actions in a row there, which I shouldn't have done. I should have waited to say you take initiative. But
you wouldn't know that I would take initiative, but you also know I've got nothing I can do.
Yeah, unless you wanted to throw your red 3 into Bright Hope.
Yeah.
At which point, Bright Hope does 2 more damage to base, because otherwise you've taken initiative, otherwise just wasted action.
No reason not to.
Yep. And then we pass.
Okay. Draw 2 cards.
Yep.
Oh, I'm really pleased with that. I've got a 4 of cores and a K2.
That is potentially a problem. That's potentially a serious problem. That's potentially a game-winning problem.
So potentially, I've got a game-winning play here.
Yeah.
But it's only potentially a game-winning play. And now I know you've got some really hefty cards on the board, and you're going to be able to take out Gorilla Attack Pod. I've got 6 cards. I'm probably going to put... What do I want to do? I'm going to probably put... Because you've got Bright Hope out, I'm not going to bother really worrying about space stuff too much. I'm not going to play that Green Squadron, so I'm going to resource that. That gives me 7 resource, which is a really important number for me, because it means that I can play Aggression and Fleet Lieutenant or Wing Leader in a single turn.
Yep.
Or Fleet Lieutenant, Wing Leader, and Heroic Sacrifice to really buff something up massively. Because I need to do 10 damage. I've got K2 in my hand. K2's ability, if he dies, is really useful, but that's going to take me 2 turns, which I know is too long. I've really got to try and finish you off this turn, because if we get to turn 8, you've got some horrific things that I've got no counter to.
If Mark attacks you with Kanan early,
they'll
potentially heal him for 2, which might throw a spanner in your game-winning play.
There is that. That is a possibility. So let's math it out. Your Gorilla Attack Pod can do 7 on the attack with a Fleet Lieutenant, right?
No, it won't. It will do 6 on the attack. Oh, yeah, 7 on attack, yeah.
Which puts me on 27. Worst case scenario, I heal 2 with Kanan, puts me on 25. So I'm just out of heroic for a cause, I believe, in killing range at that point.
Yes.
That's assuming that Kanan heals 2.
Yeah, if he only heals 1, then potentially dead. Potentially.
Yep. And I've got no active way of healing things this turn. What I do have is I've drawn a Fleet Lieutenant myself and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great play at this point as a 4 Sentinel, but you've taken initiative, so you can just attack before I can play Obi-Wan. So depending on how focused you are on that, that may not be much use.
So I'm going to do some damage. Now, it's the problem I've got is I know that you could have some Sentinels in there, and because you killed off Cassian, I'm going to be screwed. So that means I've really got to attack with Guerrilla Attack Pod now.
Straight away,
rather than risking leaving him there and buffing him up, because I could buff him up with Wing Leader, and that would get him up to 7 damage. With a Fleet Lieutenant, that's 9 damage. It's still not enough to kill. So and with Heroic Sacrifice, I could play Heroic Sacrifice for a cause and Wing, which would be enough to win, assuming that I could get through any Sentinels you played down. Because the moment you play down a Sentinel, I've just wasted that turn completely.
Well, Heroic Sacrifice, I suppose it's less resources than a Fleet Lieutenant.
Yeah, it would do the same thing, but it would cost me 2 less, which will allow me to run for a cause as well.
And Wing Leader as well.
And Wing Leader. But again, if you deploy as a Sentinel, then I've wasted that maneuver.
Yeah, it's a decision based on...
It's a decision based on whether I think or not you've got a Sentinel. And I just don't know, because I know you've got a load of Echo bases. You've only deployed 1, which means you could have 2 more in your hand for one.
And you know I play U-Wing Reinforcement as well, which can just draw Echo base defenders.
And I would know that you've got Obi-Wan in your deck. So you've got 2 Sentinels and a U-Wing, which can bring a Sentinel. So I really cannot risk it. So I've got to play Guerrilla Attack Pod this turn.
Yeah, the very first action.
As my very first.
Thinking about it, I've got to keep Obi-Wan on the off chance you don't do anything with Guerrilla Attack Pod in the first action. Because if you don't, for whatever reason, that's going to save me the game.
Exactly. So
I resource Fleet Lieutenant based on that, because I want to keep the U-Wing for its flexibility.
You don't need the Fleet Lieutenant's little bonus damage, because you've got so much damage on the table. 2 more here or there doesn't make any difference.
Exactly.
So what do I do? What do I do? Really, I've got a choice here. Do I play Fleet Lieutenant or do I play Heroic Sacrifice? If I play Heroic Sacrifice, that means that I've still got for a cause. If I play Fleet Lieutenant, I've still got aggression and I've still got K2 and I've got for a cause. So I think probably playing Fleet Lieutenant would be my smartest move, because that's going to just do straight up 7 damage to your base. You're probably going to heal back for 2, but maybe I get lucky and it's only 1.
Are the 2 resources that you would save by doing Heroic Sacrifice, would that let you play anything materially different?
Only that I could play Wing Leader. I could play Wing Leader and Fleet Lieutenant and Heroic Sacrifice in a turn. Or Wing Leader and for a cause in a turn. But what's Wing Leader going to do? If I Heroic Sacrifice, I know Guerrilla Attack was going to die, so there's no point worrying about that. Wing Leader would only buff Red 3, which isn't going to do anything useful. Putting Red 3 up to 5 attack, what's that going to gain me?
Plus auto killing the guy.
Yeah. I know he's probably going to die this turn, but...
You don't necessarily want to make it easy. If you've got nothing else you can use the 2 resources for, then yeah, do the Fleet Lieutenant.
Yeah, so I think the Fleet Lieutenant is my best choice.
All right.
So Fleet Lieutenant, Guerrilla Attack Pod into your base.
For 7 damage, we said.
Yep.
27. Right. So at this point...
You don't know that I've got a 4 of cause, but you also don't know that I don't have a 4 of cause.
Yeah. I've got to assume that you have
got
it.
Potential terminal damage on the ability.
Realistically, it's a fair assumption that you would have a 4 of cause, I believe, at this point, which means
I have played 1 4 of cause, so there's only 2 left in my deck.
Yeah. But I can't take the risk.
But you can't take the risk. You don't have a choice. You have to heal.
I have to attack with Kanan. He's the only source of healing I've got on the table right now. So Let's do.
So you do 5, or is it 4? I can't.
4.
So you do 4 damage
Let's
to my
do
base.
4 straight to base. Yeah, I don't want to put it into another unit at this point. Let's just do 4 straight to base. Oh, hang on.
Or do you want to put it into a unit? Because you can put it into Guerrilla Attack Pod.
Yeah,
It's going to make it
Fleet
easier to
Lieutenant.
kill. But at the same time, it's not going to give you any benefit.
If I survive this turn and you take initiative, then however many units you've got.
Yeah.
I need to look into the future.
So you could kill a Fleet Lieutenant. That's not a silly play. Because next turn, if I do take initiative, having another 3.
Which means I'm going to have to play the Sentinel this turn, or rely on Luke killing someone.
Yeah.
Luke can kill Fleet Lieutenant when he comes in, regardless.
No,
so let's kill the Guerrilla Attack Pod. Yep, Kanan will go into the Guerrilla Attack Pod.
Okay.
Do 4 damage to it in exchange for shield.
I need to change this. Hang on. Because I've already done that. Let me.
Fair enough.
So you'd have done 4 from that. So I would have already had 1 on there. That's it. And then you've done 4 damage to Guerrilla Attack Pod.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother putting things on there. We know now that he's an attack of 8.
Yeah, that's fine.
But that doesn't really matter because you also know that.
So now for the game,
yeah,
or at least highly likely for the game, discard the top card of your deck.
It is a single aspect.
Oh, so I heal 1.
So you heal 1.
So
I have to really. I mean, I can try and do something else. I could put K2 on there. That would mean that I'm probably going to be able to get 3 damage later.
But that's later.
But
At this point in the game,
I've got to risk
for the sake of a 1-card play that might win you the game right here and now. You've got
I've got to play for a cause, and it really comes down to what I pull here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Boom.
And boom, I win the game.
There we go.
That was agonizingly close.
Yeah.
That's 1 game each. That's good.
Yeah. How'd you feel, Tony?
Like I've said before, this is not a conventional deck. It's got not enough units, and limiting myself only to red just for the sake of playing aggression, which I do love. It's a phenomenal card. I've held on to it for the whole game because it's so powerful. And Saw Gerrera, who I also really love, and I keep missing because he's my 5-drop. And having a big swinger, even without his ability, the fact that he does 5 damage can quite easily be buffed up. I've got a lot of ways of buffing things up in this deck. I don't have Mace. I've got him in my sideboard, but I've never felt it really necessary to put him in because generally, if I get to turn 7, I know I've just won on turn 7, but generally, if I get to turn 7, I'm pretty buggered.
Yeah.
I've got to win generally on turn 6 when I bring out Cassian and either heroic sacrifice him into something for 6 or 7 or something along those lines.
But making the decisions that you did to keep pushing damage to base, just edging you that little bit closer so that the odd buff you get here from Fleet Lieutenant, the 4 cores you do for a bit of extra damage.
The other card that I do have, and I've been bringing in and out, is Keep Fighting. Keep Fighting. And the other one I've got in here, which I've not pulled a single one of throughout this entire thing, is Rallying Cry.
Yeah.
And now Rallying Cry can be, again, extremely powerful, but it gives your opponent a turn to counter it.
Yeah.
But Keep Fighting, ready unit with 3 or less power, I keep putting it in it, and then I keep taking it out because I've got a lot of 2-drops. I've got 3 Sabines, I've got 3 Wolves, I've got 3 X-Wings, I've got 3 A-Wings. But I've genuinely not found it that useful.
No, that's fair.
I've often found the thing that I'm doing the real damage with is my 4-drops.
Did talking stuff through make any difference to how this game went, do you think?
Potentially, yeah. I think the discussion we had about whether I play Guerrilla Attack Pod or stick Cassian in was an interesting conversation from my point of view.
Yeah.
Because it is an umming and ahhing sort of thing to do.
Yep.
I didn't draw particularly well. I was in a bit of trouble at the beginning of the game without those units. And that's a real weakness of this deck. As much as I love this deck it is a
Yeah.
bit of a meme. It's not. You're not going to see this winning any tournaments.
Looking back at my deck and my plays and my resources, maybe I should have played Yoda and Akbar earlier on, because an extra point of health or two would have stopped me from losing.
You only needed one more point of health to put you out of reach.
So maybe I should have played Yoda sooner and shielded him, because that restore 2 just every time he attacked would have been stacking up.
Yeah, I would. If you'd put Yoda down, I would have had to at some point attack Yoda and not your base.
Yeah.
There's no way I could leave Yoda on the board. I wish I'd managed to get a Sabine or something. A Sabine would have been really handy. But I'm also lucky that you didn't get Alliance Dispatcher earlier.
Yep.
In the last game, you get an Alliance Dispatcher as your first play with a shield on it. And me not getting a Sabine to deal with it really did cause me some trouble.
Yeah.
I do like this deck. I'm going to keep playing it, and I'm going to keep playing it until Series 2 comes out.
That's fair.
This is the one that I'm playing if any tournaments I'm going to. I don't think it's going to win because it's too luck dependent. I'm outsped by Sabine as well. I have to start playing a more control game.
Any thoughts, John, on how the game went? Anything you would have done differently? Any thoughts on?
I think I missed the critical bit when Michael was waking up from sleep. So
fair enough. We thought he just got bored and wandered off.
No, normally I can't settle him, but he settled this time. So
fair enough.
No, it was good. It was good to see the two decks that I'm not. I'm kind of familiar with your deck, but I hadn't really seen the Cassian before, so it's nice to see. I think it'll make an interesting video.
Kind of quite low opinion people have of him.
I
think he seems decent. Why don't people leave it in the comments what they thought of the Cassian deck?
The only real flaw I have with him, I actually for this deck I run out of cards really fast. In the last game, I spent a good couple of turns on one card. Because I can play so many a turn because they're all so low cost. So being able to draw more cards is really useful. The real weakness for Cassian is it comes out on turn 6. If he come out on turn 5, I think he'd be really powerful.
Yeah.
But because Sabine comes out on turn 4, if you're playing aggro, you really do want to play Sabine.
Yeah.
So I think I actually think double red Sabine would be a really powerful, would probably be a more powerful deck than this one. I don't know what you think, Mark.
Double red Sabine is generally more aggressive because ultimately she does flat out more damage faster.
Yeah.
Because she herself does damage directly to base.
Yep.
That's why she is the premier aggro leader. There's no getting around it.
Yeah. Sabine is better if you want to do damage. It's just simple as that. I like Cassian because I like the fact he's got sabotage.
Yeah, it's nice killing the shielded ones. Cool.
Yeah, the leader with sabotage is nice, but the risk is always you can bring him out and then he can get dealt with.
He gets killed off too quickly. Yeah. He's only got 6 health, and there are a lot of ways of doing a lot more than 6 damage in a turn.
It's not the easiest to get rid of.
No,
but it's not difficult.
We didn't see Fighters for Freedom, but I do think Fighters for Freedom is a really good card in this deck. Maybe I need a bit more Saboteur, but I've changed the deck up a little bit to get a little bit more heroic cards.
You won't always be playing stuff for which Saboteur is useful. That's the thing.
Well, the thing is that every card in my deck, apart from Medal Ceremony and Alliance X-Wing, I think, a Wing Leader, would do an extra point of damage to your base. So the Saboteur, no, maybe not, but doing an extra point of damage each time I play something. Oh, and R2, of course. R2's not. But yeah, the majority of my deck is red. It's a double red deck.
Yeah.
Okay. So leave us comments about the game, questions you might have had.
Yep.
And
tell us what you would have resourced when. Tell us what you would have played when. What you would have done differently to win either side.
Yeah.
And tell us what you play.
What I need to change in my sideboard.
If there's any matchups you think you'd like to see us put together and play, then do say so as well, and we'll be happy to consider those. And play them at request if there's decent enough demand for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to play John's Terror deck with this.
Yeah, hopefully get some value out of it. Cheers. Thanks for everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Catch you on the next one.
Good night.